Belgian ring sport is unique in that it has, of all the ring sports, it's the only one that evaluates how the dog grips, what they do with their mouth, right? Because most of the ring sports are the sports where the guys are wearing suits, the guys are very active. They're trying to make the dog miss, they're moving, they're fighting the dog a lot while they're biting, which makes, from a judging perspective, very difficult to judge how the dog's using its mouth. When the decoy's trying not to let him bite him, if the dog gets him at all, it's a good thing. In Belgian ring, the decoys don't move very much. During the protection exercises, they simply stand there and make a little attraction. They send the dog comes and bites. The decoy is pretty static, not moving very much while the dog's biting, and there's a judge there evaluating how the dog's biting. And the points for biting are all about pushing in constantly. They want the dog to use its whole mouth and push forward. They don't like dogs that are pulling back, and they don't like dogs that don't bite with their whole mouth. Right? So this is where some of that bite drive really comes from, I think. Right? The Belgian system is the guys standing very still, and they want the dogs to kind of keep pushing in and biting on their own. And you see frequently puppies coming from those programs that somebody just stands there and goes clap, 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 and the dog comes right over and grabs on and just starts digging in. Like, okay, I'm just doing it. Right? So it's an interesting and kind of unique thing. They use a lot of environment. In Belgian ring, we have kind of a unique situation in that they select for dogs with a lot of athletic ability because the jumps are hard. They care how the dogs bite, so there's a selection for dogs that have a full bite naturally and that bite with a lot of their own energy, that don't require a lot of stimulation to bite. And because of the muzzle, it's very hard to get a dog to do good muzzle work unless they are somewhat aggressive. Right? It's very difficult. And we'll talk about this when we start talking about protection techniques, but the use of a muzzle is one way you can test a dog's desire or work on a dog's desire to engage somebody that's not wearing equipment. So I can come out in my street clothes and the dog with a muzzle that's trying to hit me and still trying to get me, that dog's usually coming from a state of aggression. It's very hard to shape that behavior. And there are guys that try. There are techniques where people are trying to shape dogs that don't really want to be aggressive, to put on a muzzle and just run into somebody with the muzzle and then run back to the object. But you can usually tell the difference in the intensity when you watch them, and they're graded on the intensity as they do this, right? So in my mind, when you talked about what's my favorite, one of the things that's my favorite about Belgian ring is that it tests a lot of the aspects of kind of a total dog. And so those dogs tend to be good in a lot of different applications when they come out of there. They make good police dogs. They have good grips, so they could be good Schutzen dogs if you wanted them to be. They're very athletic. They jump well. The little bit of aggression means that any kind of real practical type protection work they tend to do well at. They've been tested to some degree for environmental soundness. They have good endurance. There's a lot of good stuff coming from that. All the ring sports select for a dog that has good endurance and a lot of athletic ability. But the Belgian ring is the only one that looks at the dog's gripping style and the dog's aggression as well. So the KNPV, big supplier of police dogs. The dogs tend to be, there's less emphasis on control. So what would be a good out in KNPV, a good release on the dog's part, would get you almost no points in ring sport or Schutzen. The dogs let go frequently very slowly compared to what we would like in some of the other sports. But it's a practical police dog thing. They don't really care if the dogs let go fast on the street. And frequently, once the dog's on the street, they go pry the dog off. They don't ask them to let go at all anymore. But so knowing that about the KNPV, it spawns a certain kind of dog. The dogs are very robust, very physical. Their control tends to be not so good. They let go kind of slowly. They're powerful dogs, confident dogs that like to search a lot. So if we make a gross generalization about the Dutch program, that's the kind of dog that it's selecting for. And they like dogs that have some aggression as well, right? They like a dog that gets angry relatively easily. And so those dogs, you see them more and more coming into sport-type environments as well. For other sports, people getting dogs from the Dutch type bloodlines, and those dogs behave very differently than a dog from a French background or a Belgian background or even a German background might. Right? And just knowing a little bit about the sport and the selection process will help you kind of understand that.